Hello everybody, it's Jenn, Scrapbena Creations. I'm here with part 1 of my 10 cards 1 kit for the Simon Says Stamp December kit featuring Milk and Cookies by Doodlebug. So I'm just showing you here, I pre-colored all the images and I cut them out using my brother Scan and Cut. I find this the easiest to have the images all cut and ready to go to save time on these lengthy videos. So I'm just showing you all my little goodies here, and then I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of how I get started. So basically what I do is I lay out the papers that I want to use for each card, the dies, and the images, and that helps me get going. It doesn't always stay this way, but at least it gives me a start. So on to card number 1. My first idea for a card was having Santa hold a glass of milk in one hand and a cookie in the other, with this adorable milk and cookie paper. So I decided to make a shaker card because you guys tend to love the shaker cards the best. So I'm going to get started here. I wanted to have this little piece of brown paper so that I could have my sentiment on it, and I wanted to make sure I left enough room to have a heart to the left hand side. So I'm going to stamp that using my black VersaFine. And then I'm going to heat emboss that with some clear embossing powder. I'm going to heat set that with my heat tool, and then the sentiment will be ready to go and I can move on to creating the shaker card. So I did cut this using a stitched rectangle die for the panel, and then I cut the circle using a stitched circle die from Simon Says Stamp. Put my acetate on, and then I doubled up my foam adhesive. This is Scotch 3M foam adhesive, and I'm going to put that all over the card. That will give it a nice layer. I'm going to use my powder tool here just to make sure that the sequins and the little goodies that I put inside don't stick. And then I decided to back that with the pink glitter paper that comes in the card kit. So I just cut that out using a circle die. I'm going to adhere that right down to the paper, and then I can adhere the card panel to the card base. So I did want to fill the shaker with some of the milk and the cookies, so I decided to adhere some of them right onto the glitter paper so that they didn't move. Those cookies are so adorable. I also added in some sequins from my own stash. And then I'm just going to make sure I adhere this straight onto the card base. And once I do that, I'm going to put the little Santa in the middle over top of the sentiment. And then I'm going to put the milk in the right hand and the cookie in the left. And then I just wanted to add that little red heart to bring a pop of red to the sentiment. I'm going to use some Wink of Stella. Note, this is my Spectrum Noir glitter brush marker. I did use the Silver Wink of Stella glitter brush pen as well on the black parts of Santa, and to finish off, just some glossy accents on the heart, and I put some on the belt as well, and that's card number 1. So for card number 2, I wanted to use the gingerbread paper. So I used the red polka dot paper at the back, and seeing you were only going to see a sliver of it, I decided to cut the center out so I could use that paper for something else. And of course, just using the stitched rectangle dies from Lawn Fawn, I use them on a lot of my cards. I just needed to trim down the card base there a little bit. It was overhanging slightly. So then I'm going to use the gingerbread paper here for the focus of the card, and the little brown strip here is the one that has all the little elements in a little bit of a darker brown. It's a nice neutral, and I just thought it would break up with the gingerbread. So I decided that I wanted to put the sentiment on this red banner, and this banner is from an MFT Blueprints die. So I'm just going to put the sentiment in the middle here. I did use my anti-static powder bag just to make sure that the embossing powder wouldn't stick to any of the areas that I didn't want it to. So when I'm doing black, I do prefer to use my VersaFine ink and then heat emboss it with clear ink. Clear embossing powder, but it's just personal preference. You can also ink it up with Versamark and then heat emboss with black embossing powder if you prefer. So I'm just going to put this rectangle piece down, and then the banner is going to go underneath it, and I'm just going to pop that up on some fun foam here. And that'll give it just a little bit of dimension on the bottom of the card. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. It's my first time breaking it into 2 parts. I wasn't able to get all 10 cards done in this weekend. So instead of waiting to do the next 5, I thought I would get this up as fast as I could. So while I'm adhering down the images, I just wanted to know if you guys prefer watching the full 10 cards in one video, if you don't mind watching them broken up into 2 parts, if it means you get to see them quicker, or if it really doesn't matter because you'll end up watching both of them anyways. But if you could let me know your preference, that would be great. I did speed this one up quite a bit just because each card takes me anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. And this video was long. I struggled on one card. I will show you that when I get to it. But yeah, so I decided that this card needed some more red. So I just colored up those hearts quickly, and then I'm using candy cane stickles here. And it's got red and gold in it. It's really cute. And so I decided to do her little earrings as well in the same candy cane stickles. And that's card number 2. So moving on to card number 3, I wanted to use this really pretty tree paper. So I cut out a circle, and then I used some circle dies and a snow hill die to cut out this wintry scene. The image on the back, the little blue part of the circle, is snowflakes. It's really pretty. I pulled out a Merry Christmas sentiment stamp from Lawn Fawn, and I stamped out Sending Joy 4, and I masked off the rest of it so that I could use a die cut here for the word Christmas. This is the card that gave me tons of problems, although I do like the way it turns out in the end. But even though I start off with an idea, sometimes it doesn't go as planned, or I change things up as I go. So I wanted to use this pattern paper on the bottom and break that up because there are a lot of patterns going on with this red from the back of it. And yeah, so I decide that the circle isn't popping out enough against the background, so I decide to back it onto some of the pink glitter paper. And again, just because I didn't want all of that to go to waste, I did cut out the center so that I could use the rest of that glitter at another time. And so I'm just adhering the circle element here right on top of that, and you will never know that the center is gone. And it's a great way to save on your favorite cardstock or paper. So I get that down like that better. Then I put down this pattern paper, and I'm using this die from Paper Smooches, and it says Christmas, but I could not get it to work without covering up a bunch of the lettering from the Sending Joy 4 sentiment. So then I thought, well, maybe if I move it over to the right, I might be able to make this work. So I cut it down, do a fishtail banner, and then I get that adhered into place, and this is working much better. Then I try to get it back in place, and I cut out so much during the editing of me fidgeting with this. It just wasn't working. So I pull this off, and I decide to use a little green strip just to give me a little bit more height so that I would have more room for the Christmas word that's cut out of the pink glitter paper as well. And I sort of get it, but it still is on the word a little bit. So I didn't achieve what I wanted to, but it's okay. So I'm going to just speed through this because this took so long. And there I've got it on, and you can see how it is up on that sentiment just a little bit, but it's fine. I mean, whoever gets this will know what it says, so it's not a big deal. Now I'm just going to adhere the Mrs. Claus and Mr. Claus, and they will be ready to go. I knew that I wanted to use the sequins that came in the kit for this card, so I just made sure that the images were not overlapping any of the little baubles on the Christmas tree, because then I wouldn't have been able to adhere the sequins. But got that. That was successful. Just going to ground the images a little bit with C1 Copic marker and the blender pen, and then going to add some glitter, and that card is done. So on to card number 4. It was kind of fitting that Piper kept walking across my desk for this one, because this card has 2 cat images on it to represent Lila and Piper, my 2 girls that I rescued a year and a half ago. They are both black kitties, and so this is a card in honor of them. So I'm using this heart paper in the background, and I wanted to cut off the star because I wanted to put a heart as the tree topper so that it matched the pattern paper in the back. So I'm going to put down this Christmas tree. I used a little bit of the green paper there to kind of represent grass. Popped up the heart on some foam adhesive. Got my little kitties. Aren't they cute? Oh, this stamp set kills me. It's so adorable. Decided I didn't like that heart popped up on foam tape, so took that off and just adhered it right to the card base. Gonna get the little kitties down. And then I realized I forgot to stamp the sentiment. Great. So now I have to do it while the panel is on foam adhesive. So I'm going to be really careful here. I press very, very lightly, and it worked. So yay, I'm so excited. So I'm going to add some sequins here from my own stash because I wanted them to match the pink and the teal that I used to color the accessories on the cats. And then I'm using some Nouveau. This is the, let me see, the Glitter Accents Fresh Snowfall. So it looks like snow. So I put that on their little Santa hats. And then I did some dot detail on the one kitty's bow and some lines on the other. Used some black gel pen here so their eyes would stand out. And of course then had to add lots of glitter, seeing they represent my cute little girls. And then I decided to use some glossy accents on the hat so it was raised to the same height as the little fluff. And also on the sequins, I thought I might be able to get them to look like round baubles if I could put the glossy accents on the inside, and it worked. So on to card number 4. I'm just cutting out some strips here because I didn't have enough of that gingerbread paper to have it matte along this paper that I'm putting down now. So I just kind of did some faux whatever. I can't think of the right word. I cut it so that it looked like it was matting the back, but really it's just 2 lines of paper. So that's a good way to stretch your paper if you're running out of a pattern that you really want to use. I did cut it a little wonky, so had to sort of fix that, but I come back and fix that even better with the sentiment. So just going to adhere that down. Very plain and simple card. I made some snowdrift out of, well, using a hillside border from Lawn Fawn, and then I'm going to get all the little images in place. When I was coloring the images for some of them, I didn't color everything. So for example, on the Mrs. Claus, I didn't color all her dresses until I knew what card I was going to put them on. And that way I could color it up quickly when I knew what color I wanted it to be. So for this one, I colored it blue to match the rest of the card, if that makes sense. So you can go ahead and color ahead, which makes things really simple. But then for those things that you don't know what you want to color, you can leave those and then just do it really quickly. Here's where I'm going to fix where that's uneven. I would have preferred the sentiment on the bottom, but because I was covering up this mistake or flaw, I put it on the top. So that is pretty much this card. I ended up putting the red heart on this side here to the left because I had more space on the left than I did on the right. I wanted to center the Mr. Claus, the Santa Claus, and the Mrs. Claus, but then because the gingerbread is bigger than the milk, it meant that there was more space to the left than to the right. So I just added that heart quickly, and then just some finishing accents here, some glitter, some stickles again, and then glossy accents. And I'm going to ground these images as well. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to just show you here all of the cards one by one. I hope you'll stay tuned for the next 5. It was getting kind of dark here when I was finishing up, so these pictures are a little bit dark and then overexposed just to try to compensate because it was so dark. So I will put some of these pictures on Instagram. You can find me at Scrapbena if you want to see better colors in the morning. Thanks everybody. Bye.